United Nations Security Council condemns Houthi attack targeting Bahraini forces on Saudi borders. Houthis intensify arrest campaigns against protesting civilians in the capital Sana'a. Traffic accidents in Yemen claim lives of 1,000 people during September. Good evening. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English News. I am Abir Ali. The General Command of Bahrain Defense Forces announced the death of a fourth serviceman who was targeted in a Houthi drone last week on the Saudi borders. In an official statement, Bahrain identified the serviceman who succumbed to the injuries while performing his duties by defending the southern borders of Saudi Arabia. Bahraini General Command extended sincere condolences to the family of the fallen serviceman and wished a speedy recovery for those wounded due to this attack. The United Nations Security Council condemned with the strongest terms the Houthi drone attack on Saudi borders, which killed 4 Bahraini soldiers. The council members said that such an escalation undermines peace efforts in the country. This report has more details.
The UN Security Council denounced a recent Houthi raid on Saudi Arabia's southern border, which killed 4 Bahraini servicemen from the coalition. The Council indicated that the act posed a serious threat to the peace process and regional stability. It called on the Houthis to end their terrorist attacks and voiced concern over the destruction of infrastructure in cities close to Saudi border. Members of the Council expressed their concern once more about how these actions affect the surrounding neighborhood. The statement urged all parties to uphold their obligations under international and humanitarian law. The Council's 15 members emphasized the significance of taking concrete efforts towards a permanent ceasefire. They also stressed their support for attempts to seek a political solution in Yemen that would alleviate suffering. In addition, new sanctions against companies that sell Iran drone engines were also issued by the U.S. Treasury Department. The sanctions are against a Chinese company that sold servo motors worth more than $100,000 to the Houthis in Yemen. Yemeni political and military observers believe that Houthis are not committed to reaching a comprehensive peace solution that would end the war, and that they are preparing for a new round of fighting after obtaining new weapons. The Chief of Staff of the Yemeni Armed Forces, Saghir bin Aziz, told the U.S. ambassador to Yemen during a meeting in Riyadh that Iran continues to arm the Houthis with highly developed weapons. During these meetings, bin Aziz emphasized the Houthi threat to Yemen, the region, and international navigation. He pointed out that Yemen's experiences in peace negotiations with the Houthi militia have been harsh, demonstrating that the militia upholds an ideology of violence and cultural discrimination and constantly breaks agreements. Despite the UN truce, the armed group's chief accused the Houthis of continuing hostile operations against cities, public infrastructure, military installations, and resistant groups.
Yemen Airways announced the cancellation of all its flights from Sana'a International Airport to Jordan starting next October. Yemen Airways announced the cancellation of all its flights from Sana'a Airport to Jordan for next month, October, as a result of the detention of balances in Sana'a banks controlled by the Houthis. In a statement, Yemen Airways called on the Houthi militia to lift its restrictions on its accounts and financial balances in Sana'a. The Yemen Tourism Union condemned the abuses practices by the Houthi militia against Yemen Airlines. In a statement, the union denounced the persecution of travel and tourism officers, which may threaten the continuation of their work and thus create a new humanitarian crisis. The union blamed the Houthi militia for any humanitarian complications on passengers and humanitarian cases if Yemen Airlines was unable to continue flights of Sana'a-Amman route. Informed sources in Sana'a said that the Houthis have intensified arrest campaigns against local residents. Such arrests followed the masses that celebrated the anniversary of September Revolution in spite of the Houthi restrictions and crackdown. This report has more.
In an unprecedented security deployment, Houthi security forces have spread throughout Sana'a, intensifying a campaign of arrests against individuals suspected of participating in celebrations marking the anniversary of the September 26 revolution. The group threatened opposition figures while its supporters continued their campaign against Yemeni women, accusing them of being agents. Local sources and residents in Sana'a stated that the Houthis had closed the Sab'in Square, which is one of Sana'a's largest squares and a significant place for youth and military displays. The Houthi forces have deployed armed units throughout various districts of the capital and pursued young individuals accused of participating in the September 26 revolution anniversary celebrations. They arrested numerous individuals, including teenagers. According to sources, Houthis promised to release detainees under 14 years of age after detaining them for several days. However, the rest of the prisoners will be referred to intelligence agencies for investigations, sparking fears of torture. Houthi militia continues its campaign against celebration participants, particularly in Sana'a and Ib. Local sources reported that opposition figures received death threats for calling for the release of detainees. Yemen's Minister of Information, Culture and Tourism condemned the Houthi smear campaign against Yemeni women who took to Sana'a streets, raising flags and chanting national slogans in celebration of the 61st anniversary of the September 26 revolution. The minister said the campaign revealed the true and ugly face of the militia and its disrespect of all values and customs.
A United Nations report revealed that the amount of food imports through ports controlled by the Houthi militia was more than double. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization said that the amount of food imports amounted to more than 343,000 metric tons. The organization indicated that the seaports of Aden and Mukalla, as well as the land ports which are under government control, received more than 134,000 tons.
I'm Jean-Nicolas, the UNHCR representative in Yemen, and I would like to provide you an update on the situation on the ground. As you probably know, Yemen has been labeled one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time. A staggering number of 80% of the population indeed relies on our humanitarian aid for their daily survival. Now, the coronavirus is spreading very fast within these impoverished and weakened communities. We know how to save life, but UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, is lacking critical funding. 1.2 million displaced by the conflict will not receive emergency shelter kits and therefore will have to live in the open, subject to the element and to abuse. Will not receive cash assistance, which allows them to buy medicine or food for their children or their elderly parents. On top of that, we won't be able to continue our protection activities, which are critical in a country in conflict. We need you. Yemeni people need you today. Will you make a life-saving gift today?
Tribal armed confrontations renewed in Shaba Governorate with an increase in violent confrontations between tribesmen. Tribal sources confirmed that clashes renewed between two tribes in Lower Marha district, which led to the interruption of the international line between Marha and Bayhan districts. Earlier confrontations erupted between the two tribes on September 18th, in which heavy, medium and light weapons were used. Traffic accidents in Yemen have claimed more than 1,000 people during September. This number of casualties is considered huge. Such accidents take place due to the bumpy roads and lack of maintenance. Roads have not had any maintenance since the Houthi coup in 2014. The following report has more.
The deterioration of more than 75% of the main roads linking the Yemeni governorates controlled by the Houthi group and those located within the city capitals led to the recording of more than 1,000 deaths and injuries of various groups and ages as a result of traffic accidents within 1 month. While the so-called General Authority for Roads and the Road Maintenance Fund, which are controlled by the Houthi group, ignored the suffering of the population as a result of the deterioration of roads. The sharp and continuous deterioration and lack of maintenance on most of the roads led to accidents being recorded, according to traffic reports. The latest accident a few days ago led to the death of 8 people, including 2 women, on the road between Sana'a and Hodeidah. Witnesses explained that all the victims came from Hodeidah Governorate, where they were riding the bus that were run over by a transport truck. With the increase in the number of victims as a result of frequent traffic accidents taking place in Yemeni governorates under the control of the Houthi group, a recent statistic issued by the so-called General Traffic Department under the group's control in Sana'a confirmed the death and injury of 1,023 people in traffic accidents that occurred during the past month, where 113 people died and 910 were injured, others as a result of 810 traffic accidents. While the statistics acknowledged the existence of 3 main causes of accidents, including engineering errors on roads, lack of infrastructure, and technical specifications for vehicles. Traffic police specialities confirmed that accidents were caused by several factors, including excessive speed and lack of repair and maintenance of roads. Although the Houthi group claimed every time a horrific traffic accident is recorded that the causes of accidents are due to poor traffic awareness, excessive speed, negligence of drivers, and the most important problem that worries the Yemenis and threatens their lives is the collapsing roads and lack of regular maintenance.
Coming up in the news. Climate change and government neglect threaten ancient historical buildings in Al-Mahra Governorate. Welcome back. Residents of Shabwa Governorate suffer from concurrent power outages. According to local sources, power outages continue for long hours, which exacerbates their people's suffering, especially during summer season. This report has more.
The citizens of Shabwa Governorate in more than 17 districts are suffering as a result of the power outage. The administration of the General Electricity Corporation in the Governorate was forced to reduce the electrical current operating hours program in all areas of the Governorate due to the scarcity and lack of sufficient quantities of fuel to operate the power generation stations in the Governorate's capital, the city Ataq, and the districts of Bayhan and An-Naqub.
Electricity is not like before, and we've been like this for a long time now. In Shabwa and other directorates, people are suffering from the constant power cuts. We cannot afford buying generators. We call on the local authority to find a solution.
The power outage for long hours every day caused the disruption of the work and interests of citizens and caused damage to them. Several parts of Yemen witnessed widespread power outages, and people witnessed a continuous and daily electricity cuts.
Electricity in Marha is almost non-existent, and this is because of the government neglect.
People in Shabwa call on the government and local authorities to develop a quick, radical solution to solve the problem of electricity services and to ease their suffering. The power outage has disrupted daily living. Electricity cuts in Yemen endanger the elderly and those with specific health conditions. Meeting the simplest needs for the governorates has become almost a dream since the conflict started in 2011 in Yemen and destroyed everything in the country.
Military sources in Tai's governorate said that the government forces thwarted an infiltration attempt by the Houthi militia. The sources reported that the Houthi militia attempt to infiltrate towards the government forces positions northeastern front of the city of Taiz on Thursday evening. Government forces succeeded in thwarting an infiltration attempt by the Houthi militia on its position in a Rida area. In Hodeidah, a 14-year-old child was exposed to the explosion of a mine left by the Houthi militia. Local sources said that the explosion caused the amputation of a child's right leg and crack and fractures in his left leg as a result of the explosion. It's noteworthy that the militia still refuses to remove the mines it planted on the outskirts of the city, despite the joint forces evacuating their positions in all areas located within the Stockholm area. Al-Mahra governorate is famous for its historical castles and buildings. Yet, due to climate change factors and the government neglect, those old castles face the risk of collapse. This report has more.
The Yemeni Governorate of Al-Mahra is famous for its archaeological and historical sites that extend over thousands of years. These sites include forts, castles, and monuments that tell the stories of ancient civilizations that ruled this governorate. One of the most important of these archaeological and historical landmarks is Al-Ghaida Museum, which includes a wide collection of antiquities and artifacts, in addition to dozens of castles and fortresses that are distributed over the extension of the governorate.
There are several archaeological monuments in this governorate. We must take care of them and restore them. They represent a great tourist attraction to our country.
The historical monuments and antiquities found in the Yemeni Governorate of Al-Mahra tell about an ancient civilization in which our ancient ancestors lived and reflect the strategic and historical importance of Al-Mahra. When you visit the city of Al-Ghaida, you see the forts and castles that represent a center for international trade and a point of contact between Al-Mahra and ancient civilizations such as Hisn bin Ghafila, which was a center for issuing visas to neighboring countries, and this fort was the courthouse for the Mahri Sultanate.
هذا الحصن كان مزوج عنده بن عفارة تأشيرات إلى الكويت.
People used to come here a long time ago, since 1925, to issue their visas. They come from all governorates in Yemen.
The archaeological sites and historical landmarks in Al Mahra have merged a rich culture and heritage. In the neighborhoods of Al Ghaida, you can see historical and archaeological forts. It is still standing and bearing witness to an ancient civilization, and it also witnesses the effects of natural disasters that wiped out many of these fortresses, the last of which was Hurricane Laban. Archaeological and historical sites that reflect the region's history and rich culture are an important part of the Yemeni heritage, which requires the necessity of preserve and develop it so that future generations can learn about the country's history and ancient civilization.
Here is a reminder of the main headlines. United Nations Security Council condemns Houthi attack targeting Bahraini forces on Saudi borders. Houthis intensify arrest campaigns against protesting civilians in the capital Sana'a. Traffic accidents in Yemen claim lives of 1,000 people during September. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching. It was Abir Ali.